Hi, this is Alon from the Sitefinity SDK team. In this video I'm going to review the multiple child types per level functionality in Sitefinity's module builder. Here's what we're going to follow. First we'll review what multiple child types are and how you can add multiple types. I'll demonstrate the changes in the hierarchical dynamic modules in the backend and in the front end. I'll explain the new property descriptor and auto-generated fields for each type. We'll take a look at the API usage for retrieving child items, and we will deep dive a bit into filtering of child items, and we'll see how child items can be filtered by parent items on different levels. So first, let's understand the concept. Multiple child types functionality in Module Builder removes the current restriction of having only one child type in a module types hierarchy. Users can now add many child content types on a given level in Module Builder and thus create complex hierarchical architectures of structured content. So here on my running Sitefinity instance, the traveling agency demo site, I'll quickly go to the back end. And we'll navigate to Administration, Module Builder. I have a hierarchical dynamic module here, the traveling agency. If I click it to see its data types, we can see that under the countries root, I have a hierarchy where in each level there are multiple children. Under countries there are two types, cities and festivals, and under cities there are two types, hotels and restaurants. If I click, for example, on festivals, we can see that it has a parent content type set to country, and multiple types can be set as children to the same parent type. Now if we go back, let's inspect how we can navigate the different hierarchical types. First, in the backend, since we're already here, under content, I'll go to the traveling agency module. What we see here is the root type countries. Under each country, we can see a link to its direct child items, cities and festivals. For example, if I click festivals under Bulgaria, we get a list of festivals. One more thing, right now I'm in the country level, which is Bulgaria, and I see the child items, which is festivals. The country type has multiple child types, in our case cities and festivals. And near the country title, there is a drop-down box which allows me to switch among different children types. So now I can switch from festivals to cities. And I get a list of cities under Bulgaria. Again, under each city we have links to its direct child types, hotels and restaurants, which we can directly navigate by clicking. Now let's see what things look like in the front end. I'll click the live site, so we're directed to the front end's home page. On this page I have a list of countries, as you can see. I can also click the countries page and I'm directed to the countries plural page. If I click a specific country, for example Bulgaria, I'm navigated to a country page, which gets the currently active country in the URL, and I get my information filtered by this country. Scrolling down I can see a list of cities and festivals, which are specific to the currently selected country. The same goes when I click a specific country widget on the home page. We get directed to the country page, which gets filtered by the URL. Parent and child items are accessible through automatically generated properties. Let's go back to the backend and back to the module builder and into the traveling agency module. I have access to some useful code snippets through the code reference link. Now if I click the city type, I get code snippets for the city type. City has two child items, hotels and restaurants. And if I click get child items of a city, I get an example which demonstrates how to access it. We can see in this example that I can access hotels and restaurants of a specific city by the hotels and restaurants property. I can either do it in code as demonstrated here, or in markup using eval as demonstrated in the comments here. To demonstrate this, I'll go to the backend pages And let's edit the home page. I'll scroll down, and down here you can see I have a widget which lists the current countries in the system. Let's edit it for a second. And I'll go to list settings and edit the selected template of this list. You can see that it actually consists of a rad list view, and on each item template what I have is an H3 element which evaluates the name of the country by binding to the name field. And if I scroll to the right, I can see a tooltip which also evaluates to the name field by using eval. Now I'll paste a little bit more code here. What I've added here, under the item template of each country, I've added another repeater of my own, which binds to the currently iterated country's cities property, just like we saw in the code snippet before. So this repeater would go to each of the country's cities and list it here as a list item. You can see that I'm evaluating the city name on the title and putting it inside the link. One more thing that I've added here is a bold area where I'm listing the number of cities, and this is evaluating to the cities.count property. So I'm actually evaluating the current property of the current iterated country, which is cities, and I also have access to additional properties like the count of the cities collection. Now let's save the changes and republish the page, and I'll go now to the home page again. And we'll scroll down. You can see now that for each of the countries I get the count of number of cities and also links to the specific cities as expected. Now let's take a closer look on how child items get filtered by their parent item. Let's scroll back and go to the festivals page. Initially we can see all the festivals listed here in all countries, and I have a countries list widget. When I click a country in the list, a few things happen. First, the URL of the current page gets appended with the currently selected country URL. In the countries widget I can see that the list is still shown and the currently selected country is highlighted. Now let's explore the settings that allow this to happen. We'll go back to the pages in the backend and we'll click the festivals page. Scroll a little bit down, and here's my countries widget. Let's see what we have set up for it. I'll edit it. Let's go to the advanced settings. First, let's look up the content view display mode. You can see that it's set now to master. The display mode of the widget by default is auto, which means by default it will show a list of all the available items, in this case all the countries in the system. This is referred to as the master mode. Once we have an item clicked, the URL is appended to the page's URL, then we get to see the details of the selected items. This is referred to as detailed mode. In this example, we're forcing the display to be master. Thus, it would continue to display a list in master mode even after we've selected a certain country. What we want to do is to continue displaying the list and just highlight the currently selected item. In this case, a country. To highlight it, we have the next property, select current item. Here it is, set to true. So if we go back in the list settings, let's edit the list view template. And we can see that here we have a section of selected item template, which sets the style of the currently selected country. Now let's go back. We'll take a quick look at the festivals widget. You can see that it's filtering items by the currently open parent, in which case country. I'll just open the advanced settings for a second. One advanced property to note here is the show list view on empty parent filter. Here it is, which is set to true. This means that when there is no selected parent country, we will see all the festivals rather than just an empty list. So just to recap on this on the front end, again, once we click a country, this countries widget will keep displaying a list since it's set to master mode always. It will only highlight the currently selected country by what we set in the template, and the festivals get filtered by their parent country. However, if we see all countries, that means that we're back to the festivals page without any filtering and there is no additional URL. The festivals widget will keep displaying all the festivals in the system regardless of the fact that there is actually no parent. Now let's take the filtering of child items one step further and see an example of multiple level filtering. The hierarchy of our module dictates that countries are the top level type, cities are child type of countries, and hotels are child types of cities. Let's go to the Where to Stay page. On this page, I have a hotels widget, which we can see in its initial state unfiltered. So we get a list of all the hotels in the system. I have a widget here which lists all the countries. Now if I click a specific country, for example Bulgaria, we now get a list of hotels filtered by Bulgaria. The URL has also added Bulgaria as a filter. Now I have a second widget visible. When I click it, I get a list of all the cities which are filtered by the selected country. When I click a city in the list, now the hotels are filtered by country and city, and the URL is also appended the URL of the current city as a second level filter. Let's explore the page and see what's added here. Let's go back and edit the Where to Stay page. As for the fancy selection boxes, they basically come from this styled content block and do a little trick of JavaScript and CSS showing the right lists. The first layer of filtering is the countries list. So looking at the countries widget properties again in advanced mode, let's go down to the content view display mode. You can see that it's set to master, which again means it would keep displaying a list regardless of whether we have a selected item or not. Also, as we saw in the previous example, the select current item is set to true, so we can distinguish the currently selected country. This is supported by the template, which has a selected item template section. So once we click a country, it gets highlighted as we need, and we can go on to filter by cities. So let's go back, and below the countries we have a cities widget. We can see that it filters the cities by the currently open country, which is its parent type. Let's take a look at the advanced properties again. Same as with the countries, the advanced properties, we can see that the current content view display mode is set to master, which means again it will keep displaying a list regardless of the fact that we have selected a specific item in the list. The select current item is also set to true, so we get the currently selected city highlighted. Now you could see that in the front end, when I selected the city in the widget, the city was highlighted and the widget was still showing. Even though we had a two-level filtering in which we've already selected a specific item, the list should have vanished. In order to keep this widget in display, we had to set the Enable Extended Parent URL Resolving property. Here set to true. Now below the cities widget, we have the hotels widget. Let's take a look at its properties quickly. We can see that it filters hotel by the currently selected parent, in which case a city, which is its direct parent. If we look at the advanced properties here, we can see that show list view on empty parent filter is set to true, which shows all the hotels even if there is no filter specified. The property enable parent multiple level filtering, here it is also set to true here. And this allows us to filter the displayed hotels not just by the direct parent type, city, but also by the upper parent type, country. In other words, when I select a country, hotels will be filtered by country. When I select a city, they'll be filtered by country and city, or just the city. Otherwise, we'd get filtered only by their direct parent type. Now let's go back. Let's quickly take a look at one more feature, the ability to display information of the parent of the current type. For example, to display the properties of the country when we have a list of cities or when we view details of a specific city. We can see this if we navigate to the countries page and go to a country and select a specific city. So this is our single city detailed page. We can see that the URL is a single city which is filtered by country and a specific city. And we have on it a few types of widgets. First of all, we have the widget here, which is a cities widget, which gives us the details of the city. And up here in this widget, we can see also that we have the name of the parent item, which is the parent country, which is in this case Bulgaria. If I scroll down a bit, we can see that we have here widgets of hotels and restaurants, and they are list widgets, which are also child items of city. And in the restaurants widget, I can see that it says restaurants in Sofia. So this widget also has information about its parent item, which is a city, although it's a list of child items of a city. Let's see how things work in the back end. Again, let's open the city page. And first I'll take a look at the cities widget. It's supposed to display specific city details, so it's a single item widget in this case, which is set to show details of a particular city only. We'll go to the single item settings and take a look at the template. And we can see that here we have a div, and if we scroll a bit to the right, we'll see that it's actually evaluating the parent item's name of the currently selected city. So it will show this in a details template of a specific item. Let's go back and scroll down here to the restaurants widget. This is a list widget which shows a list of restaurants. You can see that when we edit it, it will show the restaurants for the currently selected city. Now if we take a look at the list template here, you can see that up here we have a dynamic detail container which is showing restaurants, and it will show them in the specific city. So it will bind to the parent details of the currently selected widget. So this widget is showing a list of restaurants which are child types of city. So we will get the parent detail container here, which will bind this section to the parent, which is a specific city. Thus it will display the name of the city by evaluating here. So just as a quick recap of what we just saw, we talked about what multiple child types are and how multiple child types are defined and added. We saw the changes in the dynamic module hierarchy, both in the back end and in the front end. We talked about the automatically generated fields for each type, which allow access to the child items and parent items of this type. We saw how to get to the API usage to get code snippets, and we saw some deep dive examples of filtering child items and even how to access the parent item when you have a detail widget or a list widget.